I would like to start with just hearing, from you as you come onto this, um, webinar. Would love to hear from you, and I'm just posting a link onto your chat right now. I'd like you to open the browser, go into the chat, and open that link and just respond. Talk to us. Would love to hear where you're at. So I've dropped a link in the chat. Just open it. Would love to hear, how are you doing today? What's been happening in your space and in your life, even as we dive into this webinar this afternoon, this morning, from wherever you are joining us from. Take a minute, go into that webinar, go into that poll survey, and just respond very quickly. I'll be bringing up just a segment of those answers to you. So take a minute, go in there, and would love to hear from you.
Just one word,
so
Benjamin.
Just click the link. Click the link. Yes. Click the link.
There are how do I see the link?
I'd love to hear one word. So the link is in your chat. I've dropped the link in the chat function.
Okay.
Just check your chat function. You will find the link.
Yes. Okay.
Welcome. For those of you who are joining us, welcome. We're glad to have you here. We're just starting by, calibrating the temperature, getting to hear from you. How are you even as you come onto this session? Talk to us through the webinar, through the Mentimeter a survey. So there's a link that I have dropped in the chat, and I have just put it again. You don't have to look for it. It's the latest chat in the chat section. Just go in there, click that link. It will take you to a browser, and just begin to respond. Begin to respond to the questions. Begin to respond to the questions. We have 3 questions in there. We have 3 questions. So when you get in, respond to the 3 questions. We will have an opportunity to bring in the responses. Hello, welcome. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome to this webinar. We're delighted to have you this afternoon. My name is Benjamin. I'm your moderator for the session this morning, this afternoon, from wherever you're joining us from. I'd encourage you to mute your line unless you are contributing. Mute your line so that we can hear one another. Mute your line unless you are contributing. And I have put a link for you in the chat function. So as you're joining in, just go to the chat function, click that link. It's going to take you to a different part in your browser, and give us your responses through that link. The There's three questions there in the survey. There's 3 questions there in the survey. Would be happy to hear from you this afternoon. All right. I think we're going to keep doing this even as we come along. And as people join, the webinar was to start at 12 o'clock. And so you probably see more people joining at this time. But for you who joined earlier, thank you very much. Probably going to do this a lot more times. My name is Benjamin Kamon, Reinvent Leadership Coach. Excited to be your moderator this afternoon, this morning, from wherever you're joining us from. I see people from Ethiopia, from Zimbabwe, from Nigeria, Uganda. Where else are you coming from? You type in the chat function. I see Zambia has just joined the call. Where are you typing from? And obviously Nairobi. For those of you who are in Nairobi joining from Kenya, type where are you joining us from? Senegal. My goodness, thank you so much. I see that. Where are you joining from? Yeah, someone just told me I'm joining from my house. Where is your house? Talk to us. Share with us. Nigeria, thank you so much. Love that. Yes. The link. Let me drop the link for you one more time for you who's just come onto the webinar. The link is right there. I've just dropped the link for you. Tanzania, I see you. Malawi's in Kilifi, Kenya. I see you. Welcome. This is great. Tanzania, Nairobi, Kenya, Nairobi. I see that. From wherever you are joining us, welcome. Karibu. Whatever it is in your language to say welcome in Nairobi. Karibu. And we're delighted to have you. Very shortly, we will be just getting our opening comments from our directors here, and I'd love to hear Gambura in Kenya. Well, this is great. Lovely to have all of you here. Remember, just go in, click the link, respond to us, and would love to hear where we're going to respond to. Yes, Bethlehem, away from Ethiopia. We're delighted to have you. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be a great time here. We have our experts on the call. They're ready, prepared. They're looking to just respond, interact, share, add value with us this afternoon, this morning. Welcome very much. We do have a few minutes before we kick off. And I can see people are coming in fast. The call was happening at 12. Those who are coming in, Wanjiro, Kamau, Rutenberg, it's great to see you on the call. Dr. Anjiro, we're glad to have you. Welcome. I see the, Maria Musoke, my good friend. I see you on the call as well. Wow, there's so many friends I have here. If I began to just talk to kind of pick each one of them out, that would be the entire purpose of this call. So I'm going to restrain myself. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome. There is a link in the chat function of Zoom. Just go to the chat function, navigate your way there, and you will find a link. I'm just going to drop it there one more time for those of you who are coming, so you don't have to dig through the entire chapter to find it. The link is right there. Just click on it. It will take you to a survey. There are 3 simple questions. Respond to us, and then we will look at those results at some point in our webinar this afternoon. Welcome once again for those of you who are joining us this afternoon, this morning, from wherever you are joining this webinar from. We are looking forward to a great time this afternoon. If you're just coming onto the call, we do have a link for you in the chat function. The link is going to share with you, is to get a few responses from you. Just 3 questions right there. And I probably want to bring this up right now. It would be important for all of you who are joining just to hear, where's everybody else? What are they thinking about? What's happening to them? And I just want to check the results just to bring that fast question for all of us. Which one word is feeling this afternoon? And I think a majority of the people are excited. I see that, excited, voting in Malawi again over there. Optimistic, okay? Let's go to the previous one. Optimistic, constantly anxious, tired. Someone said flat. Bonjour, I feel okay. Fantastic, motivated, content. Thank you so much. Welcome our Francophone friends. Great, excited, caged, ready, fine, nostalgic, positive, okay, eager. I feel okay, anxious, hopeful, honored, overwhelmed, good, optimistic. We hear your voice, content, and please keep them coming in, share with us how you're feeling. We have 40 of us who have, responded to the survey this afternoon, yeah. Thank you so much for bringing your voice. We're delighted to hear from you. If you're just joining in, we're actually looking at the result of the survey that is in your assessment. We've got 71 participants on this call. I'm looking forward to hearing more voices in the survey. So far, we only have about 42. Yep, and they keep coming in. Thank you so much. We'll go to that data later. But right now, I only see, those of us who are responding, sharing, about 42 of us so far. 42 of us so far, 43, the numbers keep going up. Thank you so much for sharing. How are you feeling? How are you feeling this afternoon? Thank you. And so far, the 3 big feeling words are excited, great, and good. That's what. Thank you again. As you come onto the call, please mute yourself, and only unmute yourself when you need to contribute. That way we have a clean webinar and are ready to go. Right on. We're going to come to this section later. Right now, what I want us to do very quickly is I want us to hear, from Dr. Wanjiro Kamau, the director for our word, even as we kick off this section, this afternoon, this morning. I'd love to hear for us all to hear from Dr. Wanjiro as she gives us a welcoming remark. Dr. Wanjiro, take it away.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is such a wonderful opportunity to get to connect with award community and beyond. Before I even say a word about award, I just want to congratulate and thank the members of the award staff team, led by Pauline, who have made this possible. I want to recognize the presence of the award staff, the award trainers who are on. I want to also recognize the presence of the award fellows, award mentors, fellow mentees, and to welcome all our friends, new and old, to this webinar. I'm just going to say a very quick word, 3 sentences about award. Award works to bring the gender conversation, the gender lens to agricultural research. And we know that part of bringing that gender lens is making sure that all of us, the diversity of men and women working across the agricultural research spectrum, have the skills, the presence, and the leadership skills and the presence that they need to fully contribute to this continent's agricultural development agenda. And to that extent, this webinar and this conversation about mental health, about how you continue to lead from a very centered place as a scientist, as a research leader for this continent, is essential to really our mission around how we make sure that the continent is benefiting from the best talent available. And so that's really who we are as award of that focus on gender and agricultural research. And this webinar is because we really believe that having centered leadership is essential for the journey that we are all going on. So I will stop there and again recognize the award community members who have joined on this call. This is going to be the first of a series of these calls that we're going to be doing, and we look forward to having you on many more of them ongoing. And thank you, Benjamin, especially for stepping up to be to lead this first one, to moderate this first one. I want to also just recognize our speakers today, leaders in their fields. We are eager to drink from your well of wisdom. So thank you for gracing us. Back to you, Mr. Moderator.
I was on mute there. Happens sometimes. Thank you so much, Dr. Wanjiru. Thank you for sharing with us and kicking off this session for us. It's a great time. As you said, we have experts that are ready to serve and share with us and just, up-level our level of understanding as far as the subject of mental resilience for research scientists in agricultural research and development is concerned. Thank you so much. And right now what I want to do is I just want to share with you a little bit about our speakers for the day. We have 3 amazing speakers lined up that are going to share with us, the wisdom that they're bringing to us onto the call. Very quickly, I'd like to just share with you about Professor Atuoli Lukoye, who is here with us. He is one of our experts on the call. He's an associate professor of psychiatry in the Department of Mental Health at Moi University, Kenya. We also have Mrs. Florence Ambayo, who is a clinical psychologist, a leadership trainer and coach as well. Also, an associate with Award as well, mentoring leadership programs. That is what she facilitates on. And also we do have Mrs. Titi Lope Fakoya from Nigeria. She's a social development specialist, a leadership trainer and coach as well, and has had working with Award for quite a while now and sharing on leadership, and will also be talking to us about the topic of mental health this afternoon. I am your host and moderator this morning from wherever you're joining us from, Benjamin Kamoye, a leadership coach as well, and honored to say that I've been working with Award in the mentoring and also leadership programs. Joining us this day on the call are many of you from different parts of the world. Some of you are within the Award family. Some of you are alumni. Some of you have been mentors in the journey. Some of you have been mentees. You've come in maybe from a different workshop that Award did, or you just heard this from the different parts, of this world, either an online, platform, or someone told you about it. Wherever you had this from, we're delighted to have you this afternoon, and we welcome you. We welcome you and ask you to stay put. Right now, I'd like to bring Professor Lukoye to kick off and share with us the presentation on mental health, just unpacking for us our understanding of mental resilience. How do we stay resilient? Professor Lukoye, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you very much for Benjamin for inviting me, and the award team for having me to speak with you about this topic that I think is very important for everyone, and everyone needs to develop skills to take care of themselves, even when the environment is difficult, even when things are not going as they should. And so today, I would like to look at stress and coping during this time of COVID-19, and perhaps look at some of the mental health risks that are posed by a pandemic like this, but also it is applicable to many of the risks that we face in our day-to-day life as scientists, as researchers, and then look at some of the psychological reactions and outcomes of these stressors, and then finally discuss some of the coping methods that are available to all of us. And so I think to begin with, it is important for us to understand what stress is. And in simple language, stress is the tension that you experience when you encounter a threat and when your coping resources are inadequate. Often stress can be positive. In other words, every day, even waking up in the morning can be some stressor for some people. But that is something that then drives you to find a solution, drives you to do something positive. And so that's a good thing. But it can become negative when it is prolonged and when it induces responses that we call maladaptive. So usually when you face a stressor, you enter a situation that we call fight or flee. And that's normal. So when you encounter something strange, when you encounter something different, then your body and your brain prepare themselves to deal with that stressor or to escape in order to remain safe. But then when sometimes the response makes you freeze, in other words, you're not doing anything, you're just there waiting for nature to take its course, then we call it maladaptive. And that's what we liken to freezing when you shouldn't, when you should be actively dealing with that stressor. And on the right of the screen, you can see some of the symptoms of stress, and they cut across the entire, all body systems, from trouble concentrating, headaches, anxiety, all the way to anger, abdominal problems, fatigue, issues to do with, sexual drive, skin irritation. All systems of the body can be affected by stress, especially when it is prolonged exposure to stress. Then we have distress. Some people use distress and stress interchangeably, and sometimes this might not be accurate. But distress is subjective. It's a subjective sense of discomfort that you encounter, ranging from feelings of vulnerability when you're in a place where you're uncertain, where you don't know what is happening, you don't know what you need to do, to feelings of sadness, fears, and to problems that can become disabling. It can go to the other end of the spectrum where you develop symptoms of depression, anxiety, excessive worry, negative thoughts, and even social isolation. So distress cuts across the entire range of human experience, but of note is that it is a subjective sense of discomfort overall. Then there's burnout, which is something that is experienced by people who are involved in tasking occupations, in things that require you to give a lot of yourself for a long time. And so you may experience a state of emotional and physical exhaustion. And so what this means is that at the end of the day, burnout means exactly as it sounds. It means you're burnt out, you feel empty, you have nothing more to offer. So you may get extremely overwhelmed. You are unable to meet your obligations occupationally, socially, in the family, and so on. So you have a sense of emptiness. That is a overriding principle around this concept of burnout. There are many mental health risks. So we look at COVID-19 as introducing and exacerbating stress, distress, and burnout, because many of you are doing research and your research is affected by this COVID-19, either because you can't move, you can't go to the lab, you can't have meetings, you can't attend workshops, you can't have conferences. It's affecting the work that you do one way or another. And so there are several mental health risks that are associated with this. And firstly, I mean, thinking about why the risks are there, these are the explanations that there are many unknowns. Wherever you are sitting, wherever you are listening from, wherever you live, there's just so much that we know about COVID-19 in that place, but there's a lot that we do not know. And when there is a lot of unknowns, including how it is spread, because we are still studying the epidemiology of this pandemic, how it can be prevented, we have a few ideas, but new things keep popping up, how it is managed, and this is the biggest problem. We do not have a cure, we do not have a vaccine. So all these things contribute to the uncertainty that increases the mental health risks associated with COVID-19. An important part is the unseen threat, the fact that you can't see it. It is out there, and there's no way of avoiding it because you can't see it. And the fact that it is all over the place, it is widespread. So that's another risk factor. Important thing that is peculiar to COVID-19 as opposed to other pandemics that have been there in the past is the rapid spread of information across the globe. Something happens in the US today and within minutes, it is across the world on the other end of the world. And there's, as a result of this, the opportunity for widespread misinformation. So people ride on the spread of information, twist some of the pieces of factual information, and then generate a whole world of misinformation based on their worldview, based on their political leaning, based on their experience, and so on and so forth. So information and misinformation travel in the same train to get to people's houses, to people's gadgets, and into people's minds. There are issues around whether COVID-19 affects the nervous system, and it is possible that it does, even if not directly, indirectly, with how it affects the rest of the body functioning. It will affect how the brain and the nervous system work. Then we get affected when loved ones get sick and die from COVID-19. That's another risk. And for health workers or people who are associated with health workers one way or another, who are on the front line, they are more exposed and therefore they are at greater risk of these mental health consequences. A huge risk factor is around isolation, because when we do control measures, we tell people to stay indoors, stay away from other people, avoid contact. And human beings are social creatures who are built on social interaction. If you remove this, we're removing something that defines who we are as human beings, and this increases the risks to your mental health. There's overzealous enforcement of control measures. In many of our African countries, we've seen policemen beating up people to enforce curfews, to enforce physical distancing and so on. And this is counterproductive because it increases the risk of infection, but it also causes physical and psychological trauma to the people who are subject to this enforcement. And so we have to think about that. There are socioeconomic effects, job losses, reduced income, narrowed social support network because of the fact that you have to hide in your houses and in your small villages and estates. And this increases the risk to your mental health. And finally, there is also what we thought would be a good thing, that people will spend a lot more time with the people who are close to them, their family and relatives. But then those close interactions also can lead to conflict and violence. As we have seen, there's an increase in sexual and gender-based violence, especially in homes and around relatives interacting with each other. And so those are some of the risks that emanate from this COVID-19 and the response that we have designed to deal with it. There are some reactions then as a result of those risks that you as an individual would experience. And I've seen some of them in the responses that I think came out of the Mentimeter. There is a lot of, other than excitement, feeling great, feeling optimistic, feeling good, I have seen people saying, I feel okay. And feeling okay to me is a flag that then I have to discuss, what does that mean? And what are you going through to say, I feel okay? Some people have described feeling flat, and that is something that, yeah, raises concern. People have described feeling constantly anxious, feeling overwhelmed, and so on. So those are some of the reactions, as you can see, that would emanate from the risks that come from the mental health risks related to COVID-19. So anxiety is a big one. Almost everyone will be anxious about, is it in my neighborhood? Is it in my home? Is it in my country? And what is being done to control it? So that anxiety is expected. There's self-reported stress, as you have seen, people are feeling overwhelmed. That is a sign that you are entering the realm of stress. There are people who are expressing fear, uncertainty, irritability, and anger, as you can see. Then there is grief, which many people are suffering. And grief is interesting because you can grieve the loss of a loved one, but you can also grieve the loss of status. You can also grieve the loss of certainty, the loss of certain beliefs, the loss of a worldview that you held before this pandemic showed up in your neighborhood. And these reactions and these risks might also trigger pre-existing mental illnesses among people who are either predisposed or are already suffering from a mental illness. So we might see an increase in episodes of depression, mania, schizophrenia, and other serious mental illnesses as a result of exposure to COVID-19. And so I'll take a bit of time to discuss grief, because I think grief is an overwhelming emotion across a pandemic that comes suddenly and is uncontrollable, and we do not know what to do about it, and we're still grappling with it as time goes, as deaths mount, as cases mount. And Elizabeth Kubler-Ross described the stages of grief, and these have subsequently been repurposed to, I mean, it was initially stages of death, but then it was eventually repurposed to look at how people grieve, not only for death, but also for chronic illness, but also for losses that are not necessarily personal or physical that go across like this pandemic. And the first reaction that she described was shock and denial. And this is normal, that everybody facing something devastating will first of all be shocked, but then secondly will be unbelieving and disbelieving, saying this can't be happening. It's a normal response. And so you find people who manifest this as avoidance, confusion, fear, and you've seen some of those. So many of us might still be in that stage of shock and denial, wondering what really hit us, what's going on. And then there's a stage of anger, where people express frustration, anxiety, irritation, embarrassment, shame, depending on where you are. And we have seen that from the Mentimeter survey as well. So we will have people who have already moved along and are at that stage. We'll have people who go to dialogue and bargaining. And here you find people saying, okay, that's where you are seeing a lot of arguments between the enforcement authorities and citizens saying, okay, so we will give you some of our freedom, but in return, you must assure us that we will not get infected, or that if we get infected, we are safe. And this bargaining can go to extremes where somebody is bargaining once they get infected or they have a relative who's infected. They're bargaining with the powers that be, that if you let this person leave, I'm going to change how I do things in my life, and so on and so forth. So, but usually it is characterized by reaching out to others, feeling the need to tell your story, struggling to find meaning for what's happening. And that is where you find the bargaining. Some people will go into depression and detachment, where you get completely overwhelmed with everything that is coming in. And with the amount of information that we are all having to absorb and digest, it is not surprising that people will get overwhelmed. People will start losing energy. People start feeling helpless. Human beings want to feel like they're in control of their lives and circumstances, but COVID-19 takes that away from you. And you might enter a stage of depression and become detached, so that when somebody asks you how you feel, you find somebody saying, I just feel flat. I just feel okay. I'm just there. And that is a stage that you would find that somebody is going into. And then after going through all this, and this can go back and forth, it doesn't have to be linear. It can, you might be in shock and denial, the next stage you're in dialogue and bargaining, you're back in anger. So it is not linear. But then eventually you arrive at a place of acceptance, at a place where you say it is happening, it has happened. We have to, I'm hearing people talking about a new normal that we have to learn to live with. And that is something that then is a natural outcome of this process of grieving. You start exploring new options. What can I do differently now that this thing has happened? You design a new plan for your life, for your circumstances, for your work, and you start defining a new way of doing things, even with the existence of the pandemic. A stage that I add then, which people have described as a stage of growth. And this stage of growth is defined by finding meaning. After reaching acceptance, then you'd find meaning. When you look back to this period when the pandemic was happening, you find some positive thing to say about it. You find people saying, at least I learned something new. At least I dealt with it in a way that taught me about my inner strengths that I had no idea that I had. I learned who are my best friends and who are the people I can depend on in calamity, and so on and so forth. And that would be a stage where you can say you have grown, you have found meaning, and you are able to move on with your life, returning to meaningful life. On the extreme, of course, if somebody goes down into the stages which we describe as depression and detachment, you might have other psychiatric manifestations, especially for people who are already susceptible to mental illness. And other than depression, there are anxiety disorders which have been listed. Substance use is a big one. People who are susceptible to substance use problems, this is a time of stress when then they will indulge in those substances and run the risk of developing a serious clinical features of substance use problems. It can trigger pre-existing mania, psychotic episodes in patients, and can cause adjustment disorder because you have to adjust to a new reality. It's like you moved to a new planet. It's like you moved to a new place and you're no longer able to do the same things that you used to do in the past. We have a syndrome called post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder and other trauma-related disorders which can emanate as a result of being exposed to the things that I have said that come with COVID-19. And also it can exacerbate among children, especially children with developmental disorders like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, autism spectrum. It will exacerbate the symptoms because of the restrictions in movement, because of the uncertainty, because of the anxiety in the environment, and children will pick up on that. Again, we have to think about the possibility of neuropsychiatric effects of the virus itself. It could cause delirium by affecting the brain directly and changing how you feel and how you function because of the direct involvement of the brain or the covering of the brain, which we call the meninges. So that is something that we have to think about. And today, as I go towards solutions, thinking about what then can we do about it, I would focus and highlight on one thing that I find extremely useful for the vast majority of people who experience events that are beyond their control or that can be described as traumatic. And this is something called psychological first aid. Psychological first aid focuses on ensuring that daily needs are met, information is provided, and people are protected from information overload, and that they're linked to care. So that you're not constantly sitting in front of your TV or looking at your phone or listening to the radio for updates on how many more people have been infected, how many more people have died, where else has it reached, and so on and so forth, because this just serves to increase your anxiety levels. Debriefing has been described in the past, but we in the mental health professions have found that it is not very useful for the general public, for people who are not prepared to go and deal with a situation. Doing debriefing for them can, in many cases, be harmful. But for health workers and frontline workers who usually have a long period of preparation before they have to go and face something like this pandemic, then debriefing is useful because it builds on what they have been trained to do and helps them to do it better. But for the general public, psychological first aid is extremely important. And an important thing is to find reasons to be hopeful, even when there seems to be hopelessness all around. And so psychological first aid has these 6 components that are described in this diagram on the right, beginning with the listening, basically just listening to what people's needs are and looking and picking up what are these things that this person is going through and how can we help them do it better. Providing them with comfort, reassurance, telling them that everything is being done to ensure that things are okay. So that helps a bit. But connecting them to systems of care. connecting them to where they can get food, where they can get shelter, where they can get the social support is important. Protecting people from harm, from further harm. For instance, if somebody is already anxious, protecting them from further anxiety causing stimuli is an important consideration. Instilling hope, as I said, this is extremely important for all of us. And so I finish by looking at this grief, which is one of the defining emotions for a pandemic like COVID-19, and looking at how should we deal with it. And I've made this table that then looks at the stage of grief that a person is and the risks of staying in that stage, and then how one can get help and what kinds of outcomes we think you should get out of these stages. So if you're in denial, the risk is that there's a high risk of infection and spread, because you will not take the protection measures as seriously as somebody who has accepted that this thing is with us, and you're likely to either get infected or put other people at risk. And the kind of help that you would probably require at that time is accurate information from trusted sources to start chipping away at that denial and to start helping you navigate back towards a stage where you better understand and you can better deal with the risks around you. And the goal, of course, is to increase your knowledge, develop adaptive coping mechanisms. And when you're in anger, the harm, of course, is that you may harm yourself or harm others out of anger outbursts, both physically and psychologically. And I would think that this is a time to talk to someone or take some time off and introspect in a safe environment, examine the reasons why you're angry, see how you can redirect that energy, and you can get external help for that. And the goal being to process this loss, incorporate it into memory. If you're in bargaining, again, you're thinking about a personal experience as being the bigger thing over the reality out there. So maybe you've had a really, really bad experience. So you think everybody else has had a really, really bad experience. Or you've really had a good experience while everybody else is suffering, and you put that above what everybody else is thinking. And what you need to do at this time is to find a supportive environment, find a listening ear that will listen to you without judging, but also explore coping strategies in order to develop adaptive coping mechanisms. If one is in depression, again, I have put them there. It may affect your social and occupational functioning, your ability to do your research, your ability to work, and you need a shoulder to cry on. You need support in coping, and you need support to explore life after this particular pandemic. And the goal being to accept the loss and plan for the future. And finally, once you reach acceptance, if you reach too soon, other people may feel like you're out of touch with reality. So that is a risk, of course. And the goal, the kind of help you need at that stage is to help with consolidating the lessons you've learned, concretize your plans and implement them for the future, grow and find meaning in your life. So if there's nothing else, I think in the entire presentation, I think this table is useful for somebody to understand where they are at and how to deal with the grief at that stage during this pandemic. And these are just some tips on how to cope with stress when it comes, because every day you'll experience things that induce stress. There are some do's and there are some don'ts. Get information from trusted sources, maintain social connection. So people say social distancing. I insist it's physical distancing because we keep physically away from each other, but then we must remain socially connected. We must maintain social solidarity. We must keep reaching out to our friends and family and ensuring that everybody is doing okay. We must find reasons to be happy. Find things within your immediate environment that make you happy, make you smile, make you laugh. Eat well, sleep well, get rest. Physical and mental exercise are useful in preparing your body to deal with any threat that might emerge as a result of the pandemic. But also finding something to do to help other people is extremely important. When a person is doing something useful, doing something helpful, this person is more likely to cope better with the stressor. Above all, I think the advice I would say is be kind to other people. Everybody's going through a tough time. I mean, nobody planned this. Nobody sat down and said, this is what is going to happen and this is what we're going to deal with. So just be kind to the people that you interact with. Some of the things that you should not do is to use substances to cope, as we have indicated before. Being afraid to seek help when in need. Overindulgence in sleep, food, whatever it is, overdoing anything will be harmful to your health. And then focusing too much on COVID-19 numbers or deaths and tracking these throughout the day, throughout the night, this will cause you problems more than it can help you. And importantly, which I know many of you researchers do, is that you work too much. And you think that the fact that you're now working from home provides you with an opportunity to do more. And as you do more, then you strain yourself and you strain your mind, you strain your body. You are not Atlas. You're not the guy who's there to hold up the universe. Take care of yourself. Importantly, do not take on responsibilities that belong to someone else or worry about things that you cannot solve. Because it's not your problem. If you do not have the solution, then it's not your problem. And I know scientists think they are God's gift to the human race. We have to find solutions to every problem. I am sorry to tell you today, no, you don't. You have a limited impact. You can have a great impact within that area of expertise and competence, but you can only have that impact when you're healthy and when you're well yourself. Do not take on other people's responsibilities. And finally, somebody would wonder, how do I know if I'm doing well or if I'm crashing? And this is a simple schematic developed by the Canadians looking at mental health in the labor, in the workplace. And on the green side, we have the healthy features, and on the red side, we have those who are ill, and in between, we have everything else. And you'll find that these are the features. I mean, when you're healthy, mood, it fluctuates normally. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're unhappy, your sleep pattern is okay, and so on and so forth. And the actions that you take are down there. You focus on what you're doing, break problems into manageable chunks, identify and nurture support system, maintain a healthy lifestyle, and so on. When you're reacting, those are the features that you see there. You get nervous, irritable, you have trouble sleeping, and you procrastinate, decrease social activity. There's some things that I've just already mentioned. Recognize your limits, get adequate rest, and so on and so forth in order to deal with that particular stage. When you're in that stage where we are now saying this is risky, you're injured, you start getting anxious, angry, hopeless, and all the things that I have described as outcomes of the stress, then you need to identify and understand your own signs of distress, talk with someone, seek help, seek social support, do not withdraw. And then when you get ill, now on the red end of the spectrum, the features are there: excessive anxiety, you're easily enraged, your mood is depressed, unable to sleep, exhaustion, unable to function. Then you need to find a professional as needed. You need to follow the recommendations that they give you. You need to take steps to regain your physical and mental health. So I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you. These slides are available to everyone. I think they'll be shared out, and I'll be happy to take questions after this. I thank you very much for your attention and for giving me your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Lukai. We appreciate that deep dive into just the understanding and the perspective we need to have even as we navigate through the realities that COVID-19 has presented to us. Thank you very much. And while I have you there, appreciating you just for sharing this presentation with us so that we can kind of go back and, you know, dig into it a little bit. I'd like to share my screen and bring up some of the results of the survey that we started with. Everybody came onto the call and we asked the question, what is the one word that describes how you're feeling? And we had a lot of people saying, I'm feeling excited, I'm feeling great, I'm feeling, you know, good. And if I could just go there very quickly, a lot of people brought these words as descriptors for their feelings: hopeful, good, excited, great, okay. But we also have those who are saying, I feel overwhelmed, I feel nostalgic, I feel flat, I feel tired, I feel constantly anxious. These are really the realities of the voices that we are hearing. And if I could go to the next slide, seeing to what extent our participants this day have been affected by COVID-19. On a scale of from slight to severely, we can see that the place where, you know, there's the highest level of impact is actually in the psychological, you know, impact, seeing that as something that's coming there. And I would love for you to speak to this. What are we doing to cope? What are we doing to cope? We are following on the instructions on survival at this time. Most of us are saying, I'm trying to hang in there. I'm just going to hang in there. Some of them have gone to their hobbies, reading things on the internet, talking to friends, praying and being hopeful that this too will pass, being positive, creating ideas, gardening, writing, a day at a time, develop new hobbies and doing things differently, virtual communication, some exercising. I've subscribed to train myself on things I'm more capable of, developing networks. And we're seeing different ways. People are going for walks, they're reading novels. It's just trying to be resilient, remaining connected, spending most of their time with family and also communicating with extended family on Zoom. My wife had all her cousins on Zoom the other day, and they're asking one another, how come we've never done this from day one? We should do this more. And I could sense that most of the people are feeling a sigh of relief as a way to cope with this. Prof, talk to us about this, especially as we go into some of the Q&A sessions. What is it that you would say we're doing well here? What should we continue doing? And I know that's really just coming out of your notes, but this is real data from real people on a call this afternoon. What should we continue doing in about 30 seconds?
Yeah, no, I'm amazed that people are actually doing things that are helpful. People are being positive. People are taking care of their physical health. People are following instructions to protect themselves and their family. People are reaching out to connect with family, communicating with friends. Those are the things that I would tell you, keep doing those things. They are helpful. We know from evidence that they are useful things and that they will help you cope during this difficult time. And they will help you cope even beyond this time. I know people who have found exercise routines that they're now saying they're feeling much healthier now than they were before this COVID-19. And that's a good thing. There are people who are liking themselves a lot more now than they liked themselves before, and this is a good thing. So keep doing those things. And I think continue doing them post-COVID-19, and I believe the world will be a better place if you do that.
Wow, thank you so much, Prof. And I'd love to turn the attention to all of you who are joining the call today. What question would you have for Prof? I would like for you to type that question on the chat because we're going shortly into a panel discussion. Would love to take your questions and have the experts on the call this day responding to us. So as you type out those questions, I would love to bring one of our other experts who is on the call today. We have Madam Titi Lope Fakoya from Nigeria, done a lot of work, especially in the space of leadership development, and has a great passion specifically in the advancement of women and girls. And she has this relentless pursuit to ensure that their voice is brought out and that we really hear what is happening in the space of women. And I'd love to bring Titi Lope Fakoya, and she's going to just share a very quick presentation with us. And I think I'm going to do that from my side. Titi, can I present from my side, or you want to go ahead with that?
Please present from your side. Thank you, Vin. Thank you.
Very good. So I'm just going to bring it up and put all of it onto the screen now as we start.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, thank you. And it's going to be a very short presentation. And thank you, Prof. Thank you for that very beautiful session and telling us what to do and how to do it and what not to do. So one of the things that I want to highlight now is the effect that this whole lockdown and the quarantine period has had, particularly on women and girls. It's a differential effect. It's affected everybody, of course, nonetheless, but when the headlines keep bombarding at you, look at this newspaper headline from May 30th in Nigeria, and it's saying, amidst COVID-19 lockdown, Nigeria sees increased sexual and gender violence. The newspaper article goes on to talk about a 60% increase in domestic violence and sexual violence and so on. This headline from Ethiopia came in on June 5th, and it's saying that girls are raped by their relatives due to lockdown. The final headline is from Kenya, and that came in on June 22nd. And it's saying that close to 4,000 schoolgirls are impregnated in Kenya during the COVID-19 lockdown. The Kenyan headline, the Kenya article disaggregates it by county, and it says everybody's shocked that you have 12-year-old mothers and all sorts of things are happening. How does this affect us? It affects us because when the lockdown is finally lifted, as is happening now in many countries and in many cities, although it's happening gradually, we're emerging into a totally different reality. It's a totally different world. Our ward is particularly concerned about girls going to school, girls' education, and from what we can see, will girls still be going to school? How will their education be affected? How will relationships be affected? In terms of gender-based violence, of course, we know that it's not only girls, women and girls, we know that men also have suffered some form of trauma in this whole period. And the message is that there's a differential impact. And so what are we going to expect? How do we deal with these things that have happened in this short period of 5 months? 5 months, there's been landlord-tenant violence, neighbor-to-neighbor violence, parent-child abuse, unwanted pregnancies, inexplicable circumstances. And so my contribution to today's conversation is, ladies and gentlemen, the world as we knew it in February 2020 is not the world that is beginning to emerge now in June, July. The lockdown is lifting. Schools are not yet open. Parents are returning to work. So many of these girls are still in that situation where they were before. And so to conclude this conversation is just to draw the attention to the differential impact of the lockdown on men and women, on boys and girls. We have a totally new world waiting for us when we get back to work. Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Titi, for bringing this to light. I think as I read one of the chats here, someone said, hey, we've been focusing so much on the number of deaths. What we're not realizing is that we're actually killing life, killing destinies while we are in this COVID lockdown scenario, however it is happening in your country. And what I'm also hearing as you speak, and also as Prof. Lukwa is speaking, is that for those of us who have had the opportunity to join this webinar this afternoon, you're almost then believing this webinar as an advocate for, hey, take care of yourself. Think about the impact of this situation and be the voice to others to say, hey, there's a bigger impact. Take care of yourself. You need to look at this critically and to support people as they go through this journey. Thank you. Thank you very much, Titi, for bringing that perspective that I think most of us have had not seen. I was checking the chat function to see whether your questions are coming in. Haven't seen a lot of that there. I'd love for you to bring in the questions. I think I've only seen 1 or 2. Please share your questions so that we can really learn together, even as we have the experts here with us. As your questions come in, and I can see some in the chat, I'll be looking at that shortly. I'd like to bring Florence Ambayo, a clinical psychologist, over 15 years of experience in the mental health work training. And she's training now with a special focus on trauma work and mental health assessments. She is a resource on this platform this afternoon. Florence, would love to bring you onto the platform to share with us some of the things that we need to be aware of even as we embark on this discussion. I'm going to put your presentation up on the screen. Just take it away even as you start. Floor over to you.
Thank you, Benjamin, and thank you, Prof, and thank you, Titi. I think Prof has spoken quite well.
Control-Shift-4.
And I just want to say something about well-being, because today we are talking about mental resilience. And from the Mentimeter, really many of us are mentally resilient because we have picked up some things that we never used to do and are doing them. And we are, getting better and better at doing some things and learning some new things. There is a gentleman that is called Martin Seligman that came up with a theory of well-being. He's actually a positive psychologist, and he talked about 5 things We call it the PAMA model. And if you pick up this and you run with it and your family, you are going to have a lot more resilience, even post-COVID, because I think we have not seen it yet. Post-COVID is going to have a lot of mental health issues coming out. Just from what Titi has shared, there is a lot that is going to be happening after COVID. We do not know how long this is going to take. We are told that out of the some of the pandemics that have been there, it takes 5 years or more for healing to take place. We are seeing new cases, again, emerging cases in China where they thought they had dealt with it. New Zealand thought they had dealt with it. They had no case. Suddenly somebody visited and now they have cases again. And so we are having to deal with mental resilience. That is the bit that we've got to run to all the time. And so you got to have positive emotion. You've got to engage positively. I think this was already, you have already spoken about it, and in the Mentimeter, many of you are engaging positively. You've got to look out for that person in your family that is not engaging positively. Now, I work with adolescents and trauma, and Titi has given very vital information. I can tell you many of us sitting on this panel right now are mothers and fathers of young people. I can tell you young people have a lot of time on their hands. They're having a lot of screen time. They are sitting in front of TVs. They're sleeping for too long. So you may be mentally resilient, but is your child mentally resilient? What is gonna happen after this for this child? So just looking at connecting positively and just having vitality and wellness, physical wellness and also emotional wellness, and finding meaning and purpose. So what I would like to say for most of us that are sitting here is look out for the people around you, especially the younger people that are in your houses. They are on online classes, but for how long is an online class? It can't be the whole day. What are they doing with the rest of the time? Are they finding meaning and purpose? Many of them are telling me, I'm bored. It's a big word. I'm bored, I'm bored. And so they are trying out, because boredom it can be positive and also negative. So those that are bored negatively are having negative effects of this arising out of this, and it is not a good thing for them, because we are seeing more and more young people getting depressed. And you need to know how you're going to identify a depressed young person in your house. So we may not have time to talk about all this and the symptoms, but I would like you to have a red flag on you just to know what is happening to my child. Begin to talk to them. Begin to engage them a lot more often. Begin to put a routine. Let them have a routine. Let them wake up, the normal waking up time, so that it actually helps them a lot more to be resilient, even as you are resilient. Thank you, Benjamin. I think I would answer questions when they come up.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Florence, for sharing this great model, the PAMA model. And because we're going to have these slides shared with you, our participants, I think it's important just to go into it and see what it's all about, and also maybe go online and do a little bit of reading and understand this more. I think in many of the messages that I'm hearing, as much as we're getting enlightened and we are understanding what is happening very strongly, I don't know about you, but I feel that for me, I'm getting into that space where I'm getting more equipped, I'm learning more, and I want to be that advocate for mental resilience, telling people, my slow down, you're working too much. For most of us consultants now, hey, the message is hitting home because we are zooming and zooming and zooming and zooming and zooming, and we're there to provide value. But even as we give value, we have to get some time to really kind of look inwardly and re-energize ourselves and find some time to connect with our loved one, connect with ourselves, and do things that will energize us and bring some energy. I'm curious, even as I bring this question to you, Florence. You touched on something that I want you to kind of enlighten us a little bit. That we need to know how to identify someone who is stepping into those, depression, mental health issue challenges? How do we pick this out in our cousins, our loved ones, and even our children, our spouses? Hey, what are the signs? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to say that you need to observe what we call the vegetative functions. Just how is somebody's appetite? Are they eating too much? I know right now people are moving between the sitting room and the kitchen, and the fridge is being opened a lot more. But you need to watch out. What exactly, are they in a routine of some sort? Are they feeling sad and down, are they feeling confused, irritable? They have a poor concentration, extreme mood changes. What is happening? Is there, like, young people, like I said, I work with young people. Are they banging doors on you? Are they closing themselves in? And they don't want anybody to visit their room. They don't want to come and eat at the right time. They don't want to sit with everybody to eat. They want to eat alone. And even after they've eaten, they can't clean up. They can't do anything. These are some of the things that you need to watch out for and to look out for. Are they withdrawing from friends and activities? And even for you to be able to tell whether you're beginning to have depression, or some of those things. Could you be having significant tiredness? You want to get out of bed, but you can't. You're finding yourself struggling to get out of bed. You can't even cope with the daily issues, daily problems. You have low energy. You're sleeping too much or sleeping too little, eating too much, eating too little. Trouble understanding and relating with other people around you. What could be happening? Are you seeing your loved ones beginning to use alcohol? Begin to use substances in the home? Is it a little too much? Are you withdrawing? Those are some of the things that you have to begin questioning as far as mental wellness is concerned. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. And I'd love to turn our attention to Professor Lukoya. I know you gave us like 4 GB of things that we need to do in this season to cope and to navigate through the challenges we're facing. Could you share with us some, what you would call some practical action steps, like 3 things? If you do these things in your day, if you institute some of these changes in your day, or if you help a loved one institute these changes in their day, they will begin to move in the right direction. What would those things be that would help us get onto the right track of mental resilience and coping, thriving through this pandemic and the effects that it has come with?
Yeah, thank you very much. Because you're all scientists and you're involved in research, I'm going to be very practical. And I cannot tell you not to do the things you do, because even under normal circumstances, you usually are under extreme pressure to deliver and to do a lot of stuff. So I will tell you that operate as if you're going to your usual lab, operate as if you're going to your usual office. Do not do more than that. So develop a routine, even if you're working from home, a routine that involves work time, a routine that involves me time, and a routine that involves rest time, so that you are able to divide your time. And when you have to take a break, take the break. Otherwise, you will be very useful for a few days, and then you'll become completely useless after that. So if you want to be useful for a long time, you have to maintain a routine that is safe and healthy for you. And so that's the first thing, having a routine. The second thing is, and it's related to the routine, is includes significant rest time. And the rest time can include recreation, includes exercise to take care of yourself, and includes sleep. So make sure that you make time away from work and that you take care of yourself so that you remain healthy. And the third thing, which is extremely important for everyone, especially under the current COVID-19 restrictions, is connection. Remain connected to your family, remain connected to your social support network, remain connected to your friends and colleagues, remain connected, check up on each other. Even if it is just a brief call to find out, did you wake up all right? Are you doing okay? Is there something you need that I can help you with? That connection is extremely important in reminding all of us that we are still human, we are still connected, and we're going to go beyond this COVID-19. There will be life after COVID-19. So it is important for us to do those three things that Benjamin has asked me to do. Those are the three things that I would put at the top of the priority. Have a routine, get rest, and connect.
Thank you so much, Professor Lukoye. I would turn to Titi. I think our community is also looking to hear, is there some data that you would have available that points to the boy child, the youth, the men as well, and just how they've been impacted by this pandemic? Would you just share? You may not have the data right away, but what are some of the things that you're seeing and trends out there?
Thank you, Benjamin. In terms of data, so I do not have the actual data, but there are only two sexes, as it were. So if we subtract the girls from the total, what we'll have left will be the boys. But until we have proper research that gives us figures, what we are seeing is increased drug dependency. Boys, young boys are getting aggressive, more violent, and it's not as if these things didn't exist before. But the lockdown has brought out, should I say, the worst in men and in boys. Drugs, including alcohol, cannabis, marijuana, the whole 9 yards, and an increased sexual violence. Rape is up by, I don't even want to give the data per country. It's not good. It's not good at all. And some wives are saying that their husbands or the men in their house had other avenues, other channels of expressions. But because of this lockdown, they are now preying on the young girls in their house, the vulnerable victims, the vulnerable ones. So yes, the impact is on the girls. In many cases, the activity or the expression is coming from the men. And you see, regardless of how we have arrived at this point, because I was reading about the county in Kenya, where parents from the cities went and dropped children with their grandparents because they wanted them to be safe during the lockdown. And then they returned to the cities. And that exposed them to yet more vulnerability. We didn't anticipate this. Have we been in a lockdown situation before? And that is where we now have many, many of these teenagers getting impregnated with their grandparents, under their grandparents' care. Back to your question, it is a gender issue. We're talking to the girls, yes, and we're talking to the boys as well. Sexual experimentation, a lack of guardianship from the parents. This pandemic, we haven't been there before, so there's no playbook as to this is how we should be. But following what Florence and Prof have been saying, it's a time for extra vigilance. It's a time for us to be aware and to know that the world is going to be different. During the lockdown, courthouses were closed. There were, counseling centers were closed. So now it's just a rejigging of the entire play field, and it has impacted both boys and girls. But unfortunately, it's the girl who carries the pregnancy. So does that answer that question? I believe so. The other thing is I was careful to take data from the entire continent: Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. It's a global thing. It's a Pan-African thing. And then again, yes, it's a global thing. And it is so much more focused in Africa because of the mechanisms that we have in place to deal with these social issues.
Thank you, Titi. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think even just to other experts, if you feel that you want to chime into either of the questions, feel free and kind of tag in even as you come in to speak. Thank you, Titi. And Prof, because I know you're just coming in next, I would love for you to share your comments in segue to that. But I also want to ask you one of the questions from our panelists, from our participants this afternoon. One person asks is, often, our healthcare system focuses on drug treatment, even for mental cases, with little or no psychological psychiatric treatments. Why is this the case, and how can this be addressed? In other words, how can we mainstream psychological stroke psychiatric treatment in our healthcare system?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know where to begin, but I'll begin by saying that mental health care today exists in a complex world, and the treatments are designed for a complex world. And in that complex world, we appreciate a human being as being part biological, that is, you're made up of this physical self, part psychological, meaning there are things that happen inside your brain that we need to take into consideration, and part social, meaning there are things happening around you that affect you and that you affect. So we call this a biopsychosocial model. And in this biopsychosocial model, then we have to understand disease and well-being from a biopsychosocial model and understand treatment from a biopsychosocial model. So when somebody is sick, as we investigate the cause of their illness and how they present with their illness, we must look at what are the biological causes and manifestations, what are the psychological causes and manifestations, what are the social causes and manifestations. And after identifying those, and we are designing a treatment plan or a management plan, we must look at what are the biological treatments that we can give. And these will include medications where necessary. These will include other physical treatments where necessary. But then we have also to think about what are psychological interventions. And these will include psychotherapy and the very many types of talk therapy, including counseling for mild, moderate, people presenting with difficulties dealing with the stresses of day-to-day life will benefit from counseling and so on. But then there are various types of psychotherapy that can be used either singly or in combination with the other treatments in order to get somebody better, depending on the severity of their illness. And there are social treatments as well, or social interventions, if you like. So if you have a child with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, for instance, the pill is not enough. The pill might get them to calm down for a period of time, but then they're still having ADHD and they're still reacting in a certain way. Psychotherapy will not be enough, or behavioral therapy might not be enough. So at the end of the day, you have to then design a home environment that is safe for a child with this condition, and that is social intervention. So that is what is ideal in mental health treatment and mental health care. Why do many people focus on only one thing? Whether it is social intervention, whether it is psychological intervention, or whether it is medication. It is because of resources. It is because of resources. If you are in a rural village in Western Kenya, you might have a clinical officer whose only method of intervening for somebody with a mental illness to get a pill and give them and get them out of that office. If you're in a place where there are no doctors and the only person who's there is a teacher trained in counseling, they might then be the ones who are just saying, okay, whatever you have, I'll try and talk to you and try and help you deal with it, and so on and so on. So it's a question of resources, a question of investment. Most of Africa has not invested in the mental health. We take it for granted. And a question of access to care. So you might have these services, but people do not have access to them. So if this is fixed, we have the capability of delivering holistic mental health care that includes medications and biological treatments, includes psychological treatments, and includes social interventions as well.
Sorry, I was on mute again. Happens sometimes. Thank you so much, Professor Kaya, for sharing those tips and enlightening us in that way. We do have a few minutes before we come to the end of our time here today, but I want to turn to Florence. In your presentation, you said you're connecting and meeting with most people young, and also sometimes you're saying, I'm bored. And I see from the chat, one of the participants said, for those who do not even have technology and access to internet, it's like the lockdown is a double boredom. What do we do when someone tells us, I am bored? What should we do?
That's a very good question. And it's coming up everywhere. Even adults are actually bored because we have people who are locked down in a city when they were transiting to go to the village or to go to another country. I know several people who are actually locked up in Nairobi and they were transiting to UK. They were just passing through. And so they are bored. They don't have something to do. And that's the question, what do we do with, especially now, let me go back to my hood, which is the young people. What do we do with young people that are bored? You know, young people, or even anybody, everybody has got to try and find some sort of meaning right now, some sort of purpose right now. And I can tell you that young people are amazingly creative. They are amazingly creative given an opportunity. And what is happening is that what needs to happen really is we need to give them opportunity to be creative in their environment. And I have seen many young people that have turned those bedrooms into art centers. I have seen young people that have turned their homes into gardens, and they're doing amazing, amazing work. We need to encourage them to do that. So you as a parent, and you're sitting there and your child is saying, I am bored, bored, bored. I think you need to throw the question back to them and ask them, what is it that you can do with yourself? Let them begin to explore some gifts. I'm sure they will tell you, I can do something. I can cook, for example. Go to the internet, for those that have internet, and allow them to just test out something on YouTube on cooking. And they will get bored after a few days of cooking, and let them test something else. But, you know, put them in a routine. Help them to just get into a routine so they can beat this boredom and use it positively, because boredom is not necessarily bad. When you get bored, just the way you say, we say good stress and bad stress. Stress helps us to just get out to do something. That is the same thing with boredom. Put them into something that they can do. Let them begin exploring here and there, and work with them consistently and see how you can support them. That's what I can say. And Prof could add something.
Prof,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I can pick up from there a little bit. And I was going to say this, that looking at it from the long-term view, as I usually do, I would say if 10 years from now, the only thing a young person would have to remember for this period is that I was bored, that's a good thing, because it means they have been protected from a lot of the vagaries of this COVID-19. And the only thing they remember is that there was a lot of boredom that I had to deal with. So looking at it from a long-term view, that's a good thing. But then, of course, in the interim then is to challenge them to find ways of dealing with that boredom and turning it into an opportunity to do something extra, something that they would never have done if this thing had not happened. So that the memory then goes beyond I was bored to I turned adversity into something positive, into something useful that has then impacted my life and the lives of others positively. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Lukoye. And I believe all of you can identify with me when I say the conversation has just started, and yet the time is over that we had, set aside in order for us to get into this conversation. But that, nonetheless, what I hear is that we've all come into this and left at a higher level of awareness. I believe there's something you've taken away from this call. And even as we come to an end, I want to share several things. One of them is I want to just cue our experts today. I'm going to start with Titi. I'm going to go to Professor Lukoye, and then I'm going to hear from Florence. In 30 seconds, your parting shots to us. What's that word you want us to remember? 30 seconds. Make it so short we can't forget. 30 seconds. Over to you, Titi.
Academics and researchers without IT skills, please take this time out now to learn. Just as we're saying children can be bored, you also can use this, turn it around, and your lack of skills, turn it into this period where you acquired IT skills. It's not only IT, people are saying the gap is there. Those who are socially less, those who do not have the resources, must everything be tied to the computer? No, you can reach people with programs on the radio. So somebody had asked that, what can we do to help those who do not have resources available to them? Please sponsor radio programs, develop a structure, get young people engaged. So I've said two things now. Thank you very much for being a beautiful audience. Thank you for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Titi, for your wisdom and for your time as well. Professor Lukoye, 30 seconds. Give it to us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I want to take the opportunity to thank all of you for taking time to listen to me and for very engaging discussion. The thing that I will ask you to take away from here is this. The future can induce extreme anxiety, especially when there is uncertainty. The only way to reduce the anxiety in an uncertain future is to participate in creating that future. So if you can sit here and design a future during and after COVID-19 and be part of the solution for that future, your anxiety levels will be low and your achievement will be higher than it would have been without this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I love that. Florence, 30 seconds, give it to us.
Okay, let me say this, that those of you that are listening to me right now, you are resilient. Just the fact that you're sitting here, you are a resilient person. So I want to tell you, reflect. I want you to relate. I want you to reframe yourself. And I would like you to take care of yourself. Nobody will take care of you. Take care of yourself.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much to all of you, our experts. You have given us a great scoop and things to reflect on, and even action steps to take in order to thrive through this season. And to all of you, our participants, for those of you who come in, for some of those, who probably dropped off because of internet challenges, I want to thank all of you for being here. Thank you so much. And I can see the chat is on fire. Everybody's just kind of congratulating and thanking everyone for being here, taking part of what our experts have shared and turning that into text. Thank you so much. Again, just to lift what has come from Florence as she concluded there, and I'm just picking it up from someone who says, reflect, relate, reframe, and take care of yourself. From me, and on behalf of the Award family, it's a thank you to all of you. Right now, I'm dropping a link on the chat function. Would love to know, how can we improve on this? What did you take away from this? Take a minute, give us feedback. We love feedback. We have it for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. It's not only the breakfast of champions, it's what champions eat every minute. Give us feedback. Let us know, what would you want us to do differently in the upcoming webinars? We're out here as leaders, bringing our voices to help many as they navigate through this season. Share with us your thoughts, comments, and just wanted to mention very quickly that you will receive the presentations in your email, the one that you use to register for this webinar. You will receive those resources for you to continue your learning and digesting those great ideas from our experts. Thank you so much. I just want to check in with our directors from Award, just maybe a parting shot, last words, last comments, just to close this off nicely. I think you should say something. I'm looking at Pauline, who is on this call. I'm also looking at Dr. Wanjiro on this call. I'm also looking at, hey, talk to us. Dorothy on this call as well. Yeah, I see you there. I see Dr. Wanjiro. Yeah, take it away, Dr. Wanjiro. Love to have you close this out for us.
I just want to thank everyone the panelists, Prof, and you, Benjamin, as well, for what has just been, I think, a really successful conversation, a really insightful one. If you could see the award staff WhatsApp group, we are messaging each other, just really learning a lot, appreciating, and so thankful to everyone who joined. I believe we got almost close to 90 participants at some point. Absolutely fascinating, and it's a really strong message for us that this is a series that people are finding useful, people are excited about, and I know that we shall be continuing. Maybe I can just invite Pauline to say a closing word. This really has been her leadership. We have done this under her leadership, and I just want to recognize her and Dorothy and the rest of her team, the team, Helen, and Marion and Obi, who all helped put this together. Pauline, Dorothy, maybe you can close us out, but I just want to appreciate everyone who has joined. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Wanjiro, for those kind remarks. And I'm very grateful for your participation, being there, your support. This would not be successful if it had not been for your support and the team as well. I want to appreciate the panelists, Professor Lukoye, for taking time, working with us to prepare. I know you're busy and I don't take that for granted. So much appreciation from me on behalf of Award. Thank you, Titi, all the way from Nigeria. We've been preparing this and I really appreciate the level of commitment that I have experienced from you. Florence, all the way, my neighbor here in Nairobi, thank you very much for your participation, for the wonderful tips that you shared with us. I think personally, I can say I've learned so much and I am really, really thrilled. This is a great day for me to see the comments that are coming. I see a lot of learning, a lot of knowledge acquisition. I'm very grateful for that. Benjamin, you're the best moderator. It's been great working with you. Thank you very much for keeping us alive and just keeping us going. That Mentimeter, there was so much we got within such a short time. Thank you very much.
Welcome. All right. Thank you so much for being here and looking forward to connecting with you in our next webinar. Look out for in your emails, in the different communication platforms. Something is coming up. I can tell you because I know. I can see it. There it is. There it is. Coming up soon. Take a minute and please respond to us on Mentimeter. The link is right there. Don't leave without giving us feedback. It's going to take you about 3 minutes. We need that in order to continue to create better experiences for you. That's all from me. I'm delighted and it's been an honor to be your host and moderator. Until the next webinar, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Bye for now. Unmute yourself and give us the biggest.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Bye-bye, shout, scream, whatever.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Take care of yourself. Nobody
Bye.
will take care of you.
Bye. We shall continue therapy.
Bye.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Bonjour,
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Well done. Hello.
Merci beaucoup.
This is Banker from Nigeria saying hello to everyone. God bless you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Please respond to the Mentimeter. Mentimeter is still on.
Okay,
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, Marie.
Mama. It's been great.
Hi everyone, this is Monica Pauline. I can see your face and I like it. Bye.
Thank you, Monica, for joining us.
Where's her face? Where's Monica's face?
Monica, show us your face.
Monica. Let me see if I can catch
This is
Monica.
BBC.
Bye,
My
everyone.
computer doesn't have the function.